Thanks to Wet Sox for making this Iceberg. Tier 1. The Pod. The Rare Prize Crown. The Rare Prize Crown is one of, if not the hardest costume to get in all of Little Big Planet. To get this costume, you need to have impressed a developer of LBP. You can impress a developer by winning either a community contest or making something that left an impression on them. There's not many accounts with this costume, and the servers for the original Little Big Planet games are shut down, so there's no way to get it anymore. Though I do want to say it's incredibly impressive for the servers for even on PS Vita were online until 2022, and those games were really old. I don't think there's really any other PlayStation 3 era games that had support until then. Media Molecule and Sumo Digital. Media Molecule made the first two Little Big Planet games, known to be the best two. But the developers changed for the series. It got handed off to Sumo Digital that went on to make Little Big Planet 3, which is a good game, but it does feel a bit different from the first two. And they also made the newest spin-off in 2020, Sackboy's Big Adventure. A lot of people tend to like what Media Molecule made more. Nowadays, the company seems to have a similar sense of creativity to what they had when they made Little Big Planet. Once they lost the rights, they went on to make Tearaway, a game that's unique to the PS Vita and couldn't really be made on any other console. You could interact with the game by moving the Vita around, and it's kind of like an AR phone game, but a lot better quality. Being able to completely change stuff in the game by moving the screen around your room. And it got a sequel game for the PS4, but it's not as creative or innovative. I mean, after all, it was on the PS4. There were some new features with the controller, but it just didn't go as well. One of the games that Media Molecule made that really stands out a lot is called Dreams. Dreams is kind of hard to call a game. The whole game is making other games and playing them, and sometimes not even games. In Dreams, you can make games, music, animation, use it as a social network, sometimes even as a classroom if you really want to. What Media Molecule tended to do with their games ended up being a lot of kids' first steps into game development. And while Media Molecule made amazing games, and I'm sure they'd love to make more Little Big Planet games, the rights did get handed off to Sumo Digital, which made Little Big Planet 3, which is still the newest of the mainline Little Big Planet games. They also made the newest game in the series overall, a spin-off named Sackboy: A Big Adventure, and it was a spin-off, so it doesn't really feel like the other games. I mean, it's not even a 2D platformer, it's a 3D one, but it is really fun. It's got a pretty good story. It's just hard to compare to the rest of the franchise because it's also very linear, so it's not nearly as replayable. Left Bank 2. Little Big Planet has a certain feel that's very hard to replicate. Its music had a super indie feel that almost made you feel like a kid again, and it's hard to compare to any other music out there, except for one song called Left Bank 2, which really captures the feel these games had. If copyright allows me, I'll be playing it in the background for the next few entries, but this song is probably the most associated with the series. In the UK, the song was used in The Gallery, a sequence during a children's TV program in 1963. Yeah, this song's really old, but it really holds up to the kid-like feel they were trying to replicate back in the 60s. Yellowhead. Mr. Yellowhead is the name of the main character of Little Big Planet's original prototype, Craft World. Yellowhead was first revealed in the prototype in January 2006. He'd later be redesigned multiple times to eventually become Sackboy, the final version of what became Little Big Planet's protagonist, and although he never appeared as the protagonist, he still appeared in some Easter eggs and even got to be a costume you could play as if you fully aced the final level of the first game. Stephen Fry. Stephen Fry, aside from being a pretty popular actor in movies and shows, is also the narrator for Little Big Planet. His performance in these games have spawned a lot of videos on TikTok, YouTube, lots of stuff about nostalgia and how he did such a good job in these games. And I'd agree. I played Little Big Planet a lot growing up, and hearing his narration again brought back lots of memories. In this intro alone, you can already hear he's a really good voice actor.
Their vast imaginations humming away, charged with creative energy.
And wait, does that music sound familiar at all? Well, if you've played Minecraft, or somehow if you haven't, I'll play one of the discs in the game for you. Yeah, it's the same. It turns out the makers who made the soundtrack of Minecraft and Little Big Planet sampled the same instrument from 1971 called the Mattel Optagon. It's been sampled in a handful of songs, but it's just crazy that these two games that are known for being nostalgic for the same age group sampled the same thing and sorta share a same song. Not an entry, but I thought it was interesting enough to put in here. Create in Pod. The pod is meant to be a sort of hub for the Little Big Planet games. Your little cardboard rocket ship that you can choose to play different levels from. So you're definitely not allowed to build in it with the create mode. You might create something that doesn't let you access the middle and not let you play the game. But there's a glitch that lets you build in here. If you're in the create mode with a friend and you choose to start building and select something to build with, if the party leader, the other friend, decides to go back to the pod as you still have the menu up, even though it normally prevents you from building in the pod, not letting you access the building menu there, it lets you build. You can just build whatever you want. Not a super insane glitch, I'd still be kinda careful with it, but it's fun to mess around with. Fix Me Hook Hat. During the public beta of Little Big Planet 3, there was a placeholder image used in the Sackbot tweak menu for the hook hat that read, "Fix Me Hook Hat," though it was discovered that it was still in the full release of the game. It became a popular meme in the Little Big Planet community, and became more infamous as several months passed by with it still being in the game. Eventually, community members made a shirt of this meme and sold it. Glitchmaster7, one of the members that helped make the shirt, says that after they sold one of the shirts on Redbubble, one day a Sumo Digital employee came to work wearing the exact same shirt. They found it pretty funny and decided to make it a free DLC costume for Little Big Planet 3. And although the DLC shirt you can't get anymore since the store is shut down for these games, the actual shirt is still available, though it is $19. Tier 2. Deep Space Drive-In. Little Big Planet 3 Profile Corruption Speedrun. The launch of Little Big Planet 3 was rough. It was so glitchy that people started doing speedruns to see how fast they could corrupt their save and crash their game. The same guy that made the Redbubble shirt in the previous entry, Glitchmaster7, made insane progress on these speedruns and from what I can tell, really helped boost the popularity of them. If you look up Little Big Planet 3 corrupt speedruns, it's just insane how many people submitted entries for this. Sack Nana. This is Sack Nana, a DLC costume for the PSP version of Little Big Planet. This costume had such a blank expression and, well, it was a banana, so people thought it was funny and it turned into a meme. It even became a free DLC for the newest game, Sackboy's Big Adventure. Little Big Planet PSP and Vita. Little Big Planet was released on PSP and PS Vita. The PSP version of the game isn't too much different, just a bit worse, only having 2 layers of depth to the game instead of the iconic 3, so it was fine, it just wasn't as good. It was pretty big for the time, as things like the Switch had never been made and, well, the PSP in general was really big. The PS Vita version, though, was very good. It had new features exclusive to the Vita version, like touch and motion controls, but it also had a brand new unique story mode. It's odd that people don't talk about it too much because it was really well done. It sort of felt like a Little Big Planet 1.5 in a way. Its create mode was also done great, and the only downside to the version is less collectibles, but aside from that, it's really good. Little Big Planet Karting. There's a spin-off of Little Big Planet where instead of playing as Sackboy in a 2D platformer, you play Mario Kart. Yeah, it's pretty much Mario Kart in the Little Big Planet universe. It was alright, certainly not a Little Big Planet game, felt completely different. It did fairly well, and in a future entry, there's some interesting history about why this game was even made in the first place. Bug Blaster and Beta Vest. Everyone who played the beta of Little Big Planet got this, a beta vest. So it was pretty rare. I mean, you needed to play the beta, but there wasn't a massive number of people doing that. But another costume that may just be the rarest, even more than the rare prize crown, is the Bug Blaster costume. For this, you needed to play the beta of Little Big Planet and also needed to report a bug that was considered big enough to get this costume, like finding a common bug that no one else had found that would just completely break the game if left unchecked. And even if you found a big bug, it wasn't necessarily guaranteed that you'd get this. It was all up to the developers, and not many people reported big enough bugs to get this costume. English Seaside. The English Seaside was a cut level from the first Little Big Planet game. It was going to be right after the Savannah, but never got into final release. Almost all of the normal environment was found in a dev kit later on, but unfortunately it was scrapped and never made it into the full game, which is really odd with how good of a level theme it was. Run Sackboy Run. After Subway Surfers came out and stayed popular for many years, a lot of game companies wanted to do the same thing for their own IPs. Personally, my favorite of these sort of copycats was Minion Rush, but something that hadn't really been done, or at least done to the best quality, was a 2D version of one of these runner games. And that's where Run Sackboy Run comes in. Run Sackboy Run is another one of these runners, but obviously it's 2D and felt like Little Big Planet on mobile. The only difference was that you wouldn't be able to stop your character, and obviously collectibles and whatnot. It was received really well, but at the end of the day it is just a mobile spin-off game, so it didn't get too many updates or the biggest following. But out of these endless runner games, the Little Big Planet one was one of the highest quality. It was super unique and even had some features from the main game like stickers, and even had unique parts of the level to make it feel fresh as you're constantly just running to the side. Sackboy in Fall Guys. Yeah, he's in Fall Guys. It was a limited time event, and there's not too much to say about this one, but you could play as Sackboy in Fall Guys. Little Big Planet Hub. Little Big Planet Hub was going to be a free-to-play PlayStation Store exclusive for the PS3. It was announced in 2013 and was originally going to be released at the end of 2013, but was delayed and just never came out. We got some news about this game recently though. February of 2024, the beta was found and released online, so you can just go out and play Little Big Planet Hub, the never-released game. Freezatron. The Freezatron is a cut hazard from Little Big Planet 1. It looks like ice, and when you'd stand on it for too long, you'd be frozen in a block of ice and have to shake your controller to get free. It was most likely scrapped due to lagging out the game and having problems with online with it. People who were able to re-implement it into their games had a lot of these issues, and it usually took a split second for the frozen Sackboy model to even load, so it just caused performance issues, didn't really work online. It was a buggy mess, but a really cool concept, if only it had worked. Sackboy Nandoroid. Until U2 started getting popularity, there was pretty much no way of getting a good Sackboy figure. That was until Nandoroid made one. It's known for being the best quality out of all available figures, and even has a bunch of different poses, expressions, and different presets you can make Sackboy do. The Garden Recreated in Dreams. For Little Big Planet's 10-year anniversary, the pod and gardens from the first game got recreated in Dreams, the game I mentioned earlier that was made by the same people who made the first two Little Big Planet games. They streamed the whole thing live, and getting to see something that was once on PS3 and PS4 graphics just looked insanely good. Da Vinci Ghost in Little Big Planet 3 Beta. In the beta for Little Big Planet 3, you could kill a reoccurring character known as Da Vinci. He appeared in Little Big Planet 2 alongside 3 and different spin-offs, but in the beta for 3, once you killed him, you'd see a ghost version of him appear as you go through the tutorial. This was removed prior to launch, probably for it being too violent for a kid's game. It's obviously not that violent, but we're talking about Little Big Planet. You can also get jiggy. When demonstrating how to use motion controls, the narrator says you can also get jiggy.
You can also get jiggy.
And this just spawned tons of memes. Not a deep entry or anything, but tons and tons of memes were made off of this. Little Big Planet Boo Button. In Little Big Planet 2, on launch, there was a feature that let you boo levels, basically just being able to dislike them. This was removed due to people spamming boo on every level, and probably upsetting a lot of kids, and I highly doubt that if Little Big Planet 4 ever comes out, this would return at all. It wasn't in 3 either. Touching Royalty Pin. One of the most rare things to have in Little Big Planet is the Touching Royalty Pin. To get this pin, you need to have high-fived Alex Evans of Media Molecule. The thing is, he doesn't work there anymore, and Media Molecule doesn't even make Little Big Planet anymore. So the only way in theory to get this pin would be to high-five Alex Evans, just finding him somewhere out on the street, have him message the new developers of Little Big Planet your username for the pin, and if they somehow even saw the message, you might get the pin. So yeah, this is just basically impossible to get. And now for the sponsor. I'm too small a channel to get a sponsor, so if you want to help support the channel, I made a membership you could join. If you join it, you'll get a little badge next to your name and comments of videos or live streams, be able to vote for video ideas, and have your name at the end of videos. Alright, back to Little Big Planet. Tier 3. Twin Pot Towers. Little Big Planet Slurpee event. In 2011, 7-Eleven started selling Slurpees with unique cups for promoting Little Big Planet 2. On these cups, there were codes you can use for an in-game costume and stickers, but the event was for such a limited time and not many people were able to get these, so this costume also ended up becoming super rare. Oh, and at the same time, alongside Little Big Planet, they were doing a similar promotion with Killzone. Just two games you'd think would never have a connection to each other. Little Big Planet PSP Accessory Pack. There was a special accessory pack you could get alongside getting a PS Vita, where you'd get a mini Sackboy, custom case, and other accessories for the Vita. It even came with some exclusive costumes in-game, but these haven't been sold for years now, so these are really rare as well. The Vita itself was the same, but if you really wanted, it was a pretty cool custom case, and everything else was just a nice little add-on. Island level having blood. Little Big Planet is known for being rated E. You know, having any age able to play it. And with these rated E conditions, they would normally get rid of anything blood related. So certain things had to be changed. And in their monster kit for Little Big Planet 1, the Party Ghouls music track originally had a red eye that looked like it had blood on it, which it was probably implied but obviously not meant to look scary at all. Well, they ended up changing this to green to avoid issues, and even had to change the costumes they had with this pack. They had a little bit of red around their mouths for the vampire costumes and had to change it to have none at all. That's why it's really shocking when you see a pool of blood underneath spike traps on the terrible Oni's volcano level in the first game. It's just really shocking to see them be so strict about minor blood in other things to keep the E rating, but this be completely fine. This is way more violent than the other stuff. Week 1 shirts. For every Little Big Planet game to come out, if you played in its first week, you were given access to a Week 1 costume for the game. So I'll quickly run through these. The first game, you'd have a pink version of the Little Big Planet logo on a black t-shirt. The PSP version of the same game gave you a black t-shirt with a gold star on it, and the star looks like it'd be made out of one of those pillows that changes when you rub your hand over it. No, just me. And also gave you a matching cap, just the yellow star on black hat. The second game gave you the game's logo, but green on a t-shirt. The racing game had a yellow and orange jersey with Sackboy on it. The Vita one came with an animated shirt that flashed the letters LBP, and lastly, Little Big Planet's 3 Week 1 costume was an orange logo on black t-shirt. Around the time of any of these launches, a spacesuit costume was also available as free DLC, but unfortunately, Sackboy's Big Adventure, the newest title in the series, didn't have anything like this. Little Big Planet Hub, not the game. Not to be confused with Little Big Planet Hub, Little Big Planet Hub is a mobile app. Yeah, same exact name. This app was pretty much just a news app to tell you what's going on with the series. It also let you check your own levels and other creators' levels to see which ones are getting popular, and if your favorite creators had made anything new. It was really simple, mainly just text with a couple images, but it served its purpose and was a pretty good app. It was honestly just shocking this app was as good as it was, considering it was all fan-made. It was made by someone called Amazing Flying Poo, back when Little Big Planet 2 was the most current game. It was well made, but became obsolete with LittleBigPlanet.me, which was pretty much the same thing, but as a website. Rule 34. Little Big Planet karting was supposed to be Mod Nation Racers 2. Like previously mentioned, Little Big Planet karting has a weird history. Mod Nation Racers was a Mario Kart-like game for the PS3, and it had a lot of charm with its dialogue and game art style that looked a lot like Little Big Planet. Well, after the first game did well, they decided to start working on a second one, but a few months into development, they realized for the amount of money they put into it, if it stayed just as a sequel to Mod Nation Racers, it probably wasn't going to make its money back. So they decided to completely change it into what became Little Big Planet Karting. And it kind of feels like their first game, so if you really like Little Big Planet Karting, you've got a prequel to play in a way. But yeah, it's pretty much just Mod Nation Racers with a Little Big Planet skin. The Wheel of Death. There was a glitch in the first Little Big Planet that, quote, made a grabbable wheel go as fast as possible, killing anyone on it and not letting them respawn. I found a few posts talking about it from around 16 years ago, but not a single actual video. I found something that is similar though, but it's inside the pod. The original Wheel of Death glitch was bad, but it'd be fixed if you just restarted your game. But this one I stumbled across, even if you restarted your game, it wouldn't be fixed. You would never be able to use the Pop It. Creative mode was just messed up. I mean, the game was just broken, and this was just with someone messing around inside the pod. Walker enemy. The Walker is a cut enemy from the first Little Big Planet's beta. In-game, they would have been an early solution to the moving enemy, but were cut in favor of the creature brains and legs that came out in the final release. Project Near Space. As a part of Project Near Space, people on Facebook would get to create a spacesuit for Sackboy to wear while going near space. After the outfit won, Sackboy was attached to a balloon with a 360-degree camera to view our own Little Big Planet. They made this into a video as a promotion for the game, and it looked amazing. Sackboy just got to go into space. Lost Flash Game. There was a Little Big Planet Flash game that let you make your own little Sackboy. There weren't too many options for customization, and the site didn't run the best, but it was a nice little way to dress up your own Sackboy outside of the games and acted as a pretty decent promotion for them. Pod Bus. At some point in development of Little Big Planet 3, the pod was gonna be a bus, or at least bus-shaped. This got changed, most likely to just keep with the trend of the other two games, but it would have been nice if you could maybe swap shapes of your pod. After all, it is just cardboard. I feel like it makes sense if you could change it from the normal pod shape to a bus, but this got completely cut. April Fool's costume. For April Fool's Day 2010, the Hessian Sackboy fragrances were added to Little Big Planet as costumes, and these would be goofy enough if you could turn into a bottle or something like that. But instead, when you went to equip the costume, it would just play one of two animations of Sackboy putting a fragrance on. Breaking Bad Easter egg. In Breaking Bad, a show that takes place between 2008 and 2010, you can see a copy of Little Big Planet 2 in the background. But Little Big Planet 2 came out in January of 2011. Unwatchable, show ruined, canon makes no sense. But yeah, they just threw this in there to be another game lying around. Really weird to see Little Big Planet in such a serious show. Tier 4, The Gardens. In Little Big Planet 1, there was a scrapped Parappa the Rappa costume, which is weird because the characters look alike. This would have been a perfect costume for Sackboy, and even in PlayStation All-Stars, when Sackboy uses his super, he turns into this character. There's clearly a connection, but it just got completely scrapped from the main game. Middle Finger in Little Big Planet 2. In Little Big Planet 2, as a part of a level where you can control what fingers of a hand you raise, of course people tried raising the middle one, and when you do, to probably not annoy any parents, they put a big censored sign over the finger. Just a funny way to avoid any controversy. Sackboy's Prehistoric Moves. Sackboy's Prehistoric Moves is a Little Big Planet spin-off game for 2 to 5 players that used the PlayStation Move controller. It was required to play, in fact. It came out in December of 2010, and PlayStation Plus subscribers in Europe were able to download it for free on launch day. The game is also included in the disc version of Little Big Planet 2, but it wasn't a massive game. After all, it was pretty much just a tech demo for PlayStation Move, but it is technically an official spin-off of Little Big Planet, and it's nice that it was free if you got the game on disc. PlayStation Home. PlayStation Home was a sort of hub for PlayStation users who had PlayStation Network to socialize, look at different shows of games, see trailers of newest games. It was mildly fun. It was pretty much a social and advertising game. And this game got a Little Big Planet section. It had lots of cosmetics you could get for your avatar, different mini games you could play, and you could even make your own PS3 wallpaper that was Little Big Planet themed. Unfortunately, you can't access this anymore as the game was shut down in 2015. 3 Dot Game Heroes. 3 Dot Game Heroes is, let's just say, an inspired game. Yeah, it's pretty obviously just voxel Zelda, but this game is pretty good on its own. It got relatively popular, and with it being on the PS3, it let them have the addition of Sackboy into their game. Yeah, you can play as Sackboy going through a sort of Zelda game. It looks good in this game too. He even gets different expressions, which other characters in this game didn't have at all. PlayStation All-Stars Island Minigame. As a collaboration with Coke Zero, yeah, Coke Zero, there was a new Coke-themed island set of minigames in PlayStation All-Stars, and one of the parts of this minigame you had to play alongside Sackboy as the main character of Infamous. It was a superpower minigame where Sackboy would be handing you electric power-ups to send lightning to go and hit targets with. The whole minigame island wasn't the best quality, but at least Sackboy was in it. It made it kind of cool, I guess. And honestly, I just wish Sackboy was used in anything else in the game. Run Sackboy Run costumes were supposed to be DLC in Little Big Planet 3. The mobile Little Big Planet game, Sackboy Run, had some outfits that were meant to be in the mainline games as well. After doing certain challenges in the mobile game, it was originally planned for a lot of them to give you a code you could put into your PlayStation to get those costumes in Little Big Planet 2 and 3. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, most of them were scrapped, and now there's a lot of costumes exclusive to just the mobile game. From what I could find online, there were some that worked in 3, but not nearly as many as were planned. Mezamashi TV Gardens level. Mezamashi TV is an early TV morning show in Japan. It's super popular and has been around for almost 30 years now, and well, the show got its own Little Big Planet level in the Japanese beta of the first game. Though it's hard to find anything on it because of how short the beta was and a lot of people just didn't record stuff back then. I mean, nowadays if it's a smaller game, you still may never see something from it. But recently there was some discovered older footage of it. It's really hard to see with it being so low quality, but it's a standard garden-like level, not too hard. It was mainly made just to promote the show in the game's beta. Tier 5. English Seaside. Chinese Roblox item. About 4 years ago, a Chinese Roblox item was released and it's just Sackboy. Like, not even trying to be a bootleg to avoid copyright or anything. It is just a pure copy. Some fans were thinking this could be the start to a potential collaboration, but it seems like someone just made this randomly, and now Sackboy is in Roblox. Some fans even had hope that this could possibly lead to a Little Big Planet 4, but it was just a bootleg. Developer kit found. In October of 2020, the developer kit of the first Little Big Planet was found. Unfortunately, due to a mostly wiped eboot.bin file, the prototype itself is impossible to boot or play in any form, but some assets have been recovered from it. Like the previously mentioned English Seaside theme is fully able to be played. There's this random clothing hanger in the pod that you can add back, a lot smaller than a theme, but there's also an early version of the Stuntman costume, and probably the most interesting of all of these is a screenshot from before this dev kit in 2008. Nobody knows how old this Milestone 5 screenshot is from. That's what the file name is. But it could go as far back as possibly 2007 or 2006, and I'm almost certain that's an early version of the Katamari costume on the left. The Factory of a Better Tomorrow is based on communism. The Factory of a Better Tomorrow is the third area in Little Big Planet 2, and this area is based on different communist ideals and themes in the 40s and 50s, with a very similar art style to back then and bleak outlook on everything. This level oddly reminds me of Little Nightmares, just being a super depressing factory with not so positive music. But aside from it being super depressing and based off communism, it's a very fun level and really well designed. Little Big Planet Next. In the files of Sackboy's Big Adventure, there's a logo that says Little Big Planet Next. Apparently it's a test name, so people were hoping this means Little Big Planet 4. I don't think so. I obviously hope it does, but the chances are very low. It's most likely completely unrelated. Tier 6. The Factory of a Better Tomorrow. Bloody Man Cutout. This Bloody Man Cutout was used as a placeholder in the making of the first Little Big Planet. It was never used post-release, it was just left over in the files, but it's kinda crazy that such a violent image was used as a placeholder in such a kid-friendly game. Pet Robot. At some point in development of Little Big Planet 2, there was a pet robot NPC being made. It was going to be able to follow you around and possibly help with some puzzles, but it never got completed. It was scrapped before launch, and some fans have rebuilt the NPC off of what was left over the files and made it as a mod, but it's just kind of disappointing this didn't make it into full release. It's got a much more reliable one than mine too. This is literally the only entry I couldn't find anything on. This is supposed to be a community joke, I just couldn't find anything on it though. Just wanted to mention it here. I'm putting it here so if anyone in the comments knows about it, you can look there. And now for the final entry. Every level ever created is canon. Every level ever created is canon. Little Big Planet is all about creativity, making something with your imagination. And the story of Little Big Planet encourages you to create and seek out others' creations. So everything you and every other Little Big Planet player has made is canon to the game. Now, before I say my outro and have some Little Big Planet memes at the end, I wanted to say I really hope this series comes back. Looking through old Reddit posts and YouTube videos of Little Big Planet content, it's all years old, and it feels like a desolate wasteland. And seeing this as someone who's turning 20 soon, it sucks. Seeing my childhood slowly fade away, and I honestly just wish kids nowadays could experience the magic me and other people had back when these games were popular. Basically, Little Big Planet 4 when. For legal reasons, I am telling you not to download an emulator of Little Big Planet 3. Don't do this, because if you did, you'd be able to play community-made maps. Do not do this though. Don't do this though, because for legal reasons, I cannot encourage you to do this. Because if you did do this, you would help keep the community alive and be able to share levels even though the servers are shut down. But for legal reasons, don't do this. Have a great rest of your day, week, month. Subscribe and like if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much to Raka for being my first YouTube member. If you become a member, you can support me way more than any other way possible on YouTube. So thank you so incredibly much. Thanks for watching.